Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of Adobe Live. My name is Cory Hall, and today this is teaching typography. As you can see right above me here, we are going to be diving into a lot of the fundamentals behind typography. This is, I think, part 6 of an ongoing series that I'm doing where we're just kind of talking about typography. We're talking about grid structures and how we can use typography to better enhance our designs. I'm just going to say hi to the people in the chat right now. Looks like we've got Barbara. Hello again, Barbara. It is so good to have you back. I have missed you. Every 2 weeks, I look forward to seeing you here. So thank you for joining us. Jack, hello. Cody Bear, hello. If we've got people joining us from the last live stream, thank you. Feel free to stick around. I'm so happy to have you here. And I am going to switch on over to my website just for a really quick, continue my introduction. So as I mentioned, I'm a graphic designer. I am based in Portland, Oregon. I've been working as a graphic designer now for 9 years, which is crazy to think about. I have worked at all sorts of different places. I love typography too, Barbara. That is why we are here. So yeah, I've been working as a graphic designer for 9 years. I've worked at brand firms, package design firms, digital publishing startups. I've worked in education. I've worked in local government. I started working as a graphic designer when I was 21 years old, which is also when I started going to design school in San Francisco. And now I work as a senior designer for Stanford University. I'm doing all sorts of things. I do a lot of brand design. Here, let me go over to my project side of the website. I made this website and I'm super proud of it. I love it so much. It has a lot of really big, bold typography, but I think my favorite part is that it's sort of this like double-sided, double scrolling format. So I mentioned that we're going to be talking about grids and stuff in our teaching typography series, and this is, I think, like a really cool sort of grid layout that I was able to create for my website. Ray, greetings from London, England. Welcome, Ray. I think we've had you in the chat before, so welcome back. I love England. London particularly is one of my favorite places to go when I'm on vacation, and I've got some family in Cardiff, Wales, and so usually bop between the two when I'm traveling over on that side of the pond, as they say. So yes, let's see. I do a lot of editorial illustrations. I do podcast branding. I do a lot of social media and content design. But today, in particular, continuing on with the Teaching Typography series, we are going to be looking at some fundamentals of typography that I personally have found really helpful in my own graphic design practice over the last 9 or so years. I have this notes document that I have been working off of, as well as our kind of ongoing working Illustrator document. So let's see, we've done, gosh, how many episodes have we done? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 episodes of teaching typography so far. And the goal of each of these episodes, as is the goal today, is to dive a little bit deeper into some kind of fundamental of typography. And so for the first episode, we looked at typographic anatomy, the different parts of a letter. What are these parts of a letter? How do they come together to form a cohesive typeface? Like, what is this little squiggly part of the G called? And if we go down into the key down here, we can see that it's called the ear. And so kind of creating these like informative posters based on the like definitions of, you know, how can we define a grid and structure. Grid is made up of different modules, and then where does type fall into that? Robert is joining us from Sweden. Hey, Robert, thank you for joining us. I think you've also been in the chat before. How is everybody doing? I'm doing great. I just got back from a week-long cruise vacation, so I am tan, I am relaxed, I'm feeling good, I'm ready to get back into work, but I'd love to know how all of y'all are doing. Ray says catching up on previous episodes. That's awesome, Ray. Thank you for doing that. I mean, if you would like to... Oh, my dad is in the chat. Alan Hall, howdy from Palo Alto, California. Hi, Dad. Thanks for joining. My parents are amazing, and they always tune into my live streams. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. If you'd like to catch up on previous teaching typography episodes and see how each of these posters were made, you can go over to the Behance channel on YouTube and search my name or search teaching typography, and those episodes, previous episodes, should come up. Ray says 2 weeks have gone so quickly. They really have flown by, and let me tell you, the time flies by even faster when you are on a ship in the Bermuda Triangle, which is where I was. So yeah, let's see. I keep getting distracted by the chat. I'm just so happy to have all you guys here. So let's see. Episode 2 of 11. There's going to be 11 of these episodes, you guys, which is like super exciting. Episode 2 of 11, typographic structure. How can we use structure or how can we use grids to structure our typography to make sure that whatever message that we're trying to communicate with our type is successful? And using like hierarchy within grids and grid structures, and even learning how to create a grid within Illustrator. So if you missed that episode, and you would like me to do a really quick little demo of that in today's episode, just let me know in the chat and I'm happy to do that. Let's see. Typographic semantics. This one was really interesting for me. Semantics and visual semantics. Semantics is like the study of like the meaning of words or phrases. And so how can we use the study of semantics to enhance our typography? Or how can we use the power of typography to like further communicate an idea or a message? And so, right, like changing the font to match whatever message it is that we're trying to communicate can really help enhance our typography. And was beginning to call that visual semantics. Typographic hierarchy, so the order in which we lay out information with our typography plays a really big role in how legible it is or how your idea is communicated. And so really thinking about what does visual hierarchy mean, and how can we shape our hierarchy based on our audience, and then what tools can we use within the typographic system to further enhance our typography. So case, weight, alignment, etc. And then finally, today, this is actually part two of an 11-part series on typography. Part 2, we're looking at typographic classification. And so, looking at the different sort of like families of typefaces and, how can we use them? How can we pair them together? How do we even really define them? And so last week or 2 weeks ago, we looked at the first 3 categories or classifications of typography, which would be sans serif, slab serif, and serifs. And it is kind of interesting to differentiate serifs from slab serifs. But really the idea there is that serifs and slab serifs are technically pretty different, just historically when they were made, why they were made, what they were made for. Serifs have been around for longer than slab serifs have. And so breaking those out into their own sort of classifications. Nur, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Where are you joining us from? We've got people from all over the place. We've got people from Sweden. We've got people from England. We've got people from all over the United States. I am currently based in Portland, Oregon, although my dad is joining us from California in the chat. So today, I guess let me just also say, this is like kind of a kooky use of typography. It's like giving ransom note a little bit, but I kind of like that. And you can see that I kind of borrowed from this sort of like visual theme that I started in the very beginning of this series where, we were exploring how different typefaces obviously visually are pretty distinct, but for the most part, they share a lot of similarities, which help signal to the viewer, they help to convey a theme or a mood. And so, despite the fact that we have a slab serif A here and a serif A here, they're made up mostly of the same parts. And so that's kind of the purpose behind using all these different typefaces all together in one. And plus, I think it just makes it look kind of more like visually interesting. So that's kind of what I was going for with this one here. For this first poster about typographic classification. I'm going to head back over to my notes really quick and just kind of talk through the different categories that we are looking at. So, we had, like I mentioned 2 weeks ago, sans serif, serifs, and slab serifs, in which we looked at those, their definitions, and some different examples of them. And then this week, we'll be looking at script, monospace, and handwritten. And the reason that I chose these is actually because if you go over to Adobe Fonts, and if you go over to browse all Adobe fonts, you can see that we've got those same 6 different, oh, sometimes it does this. It should sign me back in just a second. Yep, there we go. You can see we've got these 6 different classifications that you can use to filter different typefaces in within Adobe Fonts. And if you are tuning in and Adobe Fonts is new to you, make sure you go check it out, fonts.adobe.com. Like thousands of typefaces in there. And typefaces, fonts, 2 different things, right? We did talk about this in the last episode, but a typeface is kind of a family of a particular style of a typeface, whereas fonts live within the typeface family. And so if we were to go look at Responder, we can see here in Adobe Fonts Responder P that there are 12 fonts within the Responder family. So I can click View Family. So Responder is the typeface, and all of these that live within the Responder family are the fonts. So just a little reminder. Oh, Apurva, how are you? Doing good? It's been a powerful set of sessions. Oh, love that. Okay. I think you were in the previous live stream too, so thank you for sticking around. So yeah, we are looking at these different 6 classification systems. Last 2 weeks ago, we did the first 3. This week, we're doing the last 3. And just kind of looking at, what different scripts are, different mono typefaces are, hand typefaces, and creating a really cool poster out of it. So let's just kind of dive in. I have all of my artboards here. I've got it all divided out into different layers over here on the right hand side, where I've got it sectioned off, or each layer is separated into the grids or the guides, the grids, header and footer. Graphics is like kind of empty. I think I was using graphics as in some. Oh yeah, like on this first poster I have graphics, but I haven't really been using that layer. And then typography, which is, the meat of these posters, hence the name, teaching typography. So I am going to duplicate this last artboard, continue on with the series, and I've been kind of thinking about what I want to do. We're going to be on episode 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is currently episode 6 out of 11. So what do we want to do with all these posters when this series is over? Maybe that's something that we can do in the 11th session. But if anyone has any ideas in the chat, I don't know. I'm open to ideas. Maybe we can print them out into a book, make some kind of zine, makes like a mega poster where they're each like gridded along in the poster. Because I think it would be really cool to see all of these different typographic fundamentals all laid out together. I will need to go through and like spell check everything and make sure that like all of the definitions are looking and feeling correct. Oh my God, Annika says we're reso printing it. Obviously, yes, we talked about that. Absolutely needs to be reso printed. This would look gorgeous reso printed too, with this like grid in the background and just layering on each progressive layer of typography and graphic elements on top of that. Okay, so we are reso. We are going to make a reso zine, and maybe I could even potentially do something, a pre-order thing on my website, and if you are interested, I could send you a reso printed version of this. That would be really fun. Okay, so duplicated my artboard here, and something that you'll notice is that with each of these posters is I've got some very consistent elements, typographic elements and graphic elements, and then the meat of the poster in the center of the poster is really what changes. And so I personally, in my own design practice, really like to have a little bit of consistency and a lot of variation. And so that's kind of what we're going for with this series here, is we've got consistency in the headers and in the footers, and with these bars that kind of help tie this whole series together as a family. And then the meat of the poster, whatever fundamental it is that we're exploring with the poster, that's what changes week by week. And so, you know, I could technically repeat this concept here with the new different, so with our script, mono, and handwritten typefaces, but then it would just be basically a repetition of this poster from week 5. And so I don't think I want to do that. I think that I want to do something that's a little bit different. And I'm going to start by, let's just start laying stuff out, okay? We are going to, we have, like I mentioned, we're looking at the script classification. Make this bigger, select all. If you're not familiar with this keyboard shortcut that I'm doing Shift Command period to take the typeface size up by 1. Oh no, I've got it set by 2 points because I am impatient. And if I did it by 1 point, then it would take too long. So Shift Command period to bump the font size up, and then let's see, Nimbus Sans is the typeface that I've been using for a lot of the sort of more informational type on these posters. And so I think let's go with that for now. I'm going to go over into my Creative Cloud libraries where I have a teaching typography library with all of the colors that I use. So I don't know, we've got a lot of familiar faces in the chat, so you've definitely heard me talk about Creative Cloud libraries, but if anyone has any questions about it or wants to talk through how I use it or share how they use it, I would love to hear from you, because in the past when talking about it, people have shared some really awesome ideas for how to use Creative Cloud libraries. I personally use it a lot in my day-to-day work at Stanford. Sharing assets between designers is really easy with Creative Cloud libraries because you can just plop in different shapes or graphics in here, and it creates essentially its own Illustrator file where then you can double click and it's linked across a team's, if you share the library with your team, all of those files become linked with the entire team. And so as you update something, the designer you're working with gets that updated version. So they're just really, really helpful. Annika, how are you? Thank you for joining us. I am so happy to have you here. What have you been up to? What live streams have you been doing? Do you want to talk through any cool design projects you're working on? Script mono space is the second classification that we're looking at. And then the third one is handwritten. So let me just double check that I've got that right. Yep, we've got script, mono, hand. Okay. I'm just going to go on over into the script classification section of Adobe Fonts for some inspiration. Man, there's just like so many fonts in here. I just love it, and I love exploring and seeing what new fonts there are because I feel like there's always fonts being added. Excuse me while I drink my kombucha. Onyx said, I did a dinner party theme branding stream today and I used Beetle. Beetle, is that a typeface? Beetle? Doot, 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 doot. Oh my gosh, that is beautiful. I love that. Wow, okay. I'm like, I want to use that. That's a gorgeous script. Dinner party theme branding system, by the way, is like so on theme for my life right now, because I am hosting a dinner party slash birthday party for my friend Yu Yang tonight. And I created like really, really fast invitations because I didn't have a lot of time. And I'm not going to show them to you here because they were so fast that they aren't amazing. But I love making dinner party invitations or just like birthday party invitations or anything. It's just like a really fun little like hobby way to spend your time and just like experiment and explore with your design. Guest on the core show. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh, I love this. We did a Polish themed dinner. Polish. I'm guessing it's Polish themed dinner party and made party favors too. Annika, let's definitely do a coffee chat. I would love to chat with you. I feel like we have interacted so much on like through Adobe Live, but we haven't actually like chatted like one-on-one before. So let's plan a little coffee chat and we can talk about dinner party invitations and stuff. Okay, I'm going in, I'm adjusting my rag because I'm a sucker for a good rag and I despise a bad one. This one's almost looking like a little too wide. Let's bring it in. Oh, see, now I'm like messing it up. Is anyone else like super particular about their rags and spends way too long doing them? If you are, raise your hand in the chat because I would love to know that I'm not the only one. Hee hee. Polish. Polish. Yes. Cool. I read it as Polish because that's the way my brain works. But yeah, I'm like a sucker for a good rag. I love working in InDesign and just like getting super particular on like a book design or zine design project and spending hours fixing the rag on type systems. One of my good friends is a book designer, works for a book publishing company in, I think, San Francisco is where it's based. And he is like an InDesign champion, is so freaking good at InDesign and is like totally into creating beautiful rags as well. Okay. This is like kind of a funny point, but gotta get rid of that. Or maybe I won't get rid of it. Monospace typefaces were, let's just make it a better sentence. There we go. Okay. Let's go. Ooh. See, I can't get into doing rags on live stream because then I'm just going to spend way too long doing them. But it's just like an OCD thing for me, I think. Hee hee. Okay. There. That's bad. Or better. Cool. Okay. Let's go down over here. And I'm just copying and pasting these definitions from my notes. I actually discovered recently that Google has some really interesting articles on fonts and like typeface and history of typefaces. Just like really cool and informational. I was like confused about why certain typefaces, when set at the same size, appeared visually of different sizes. And you know, I think I like understood generally, but I wanted to understand sort of the mechanics and like the science behind it. And I found this really interesting article about it. So I would encourage y'all to go over to fonts.google.com and like read about some of their knowledge, read their knowledge section. There's really great information in there. So I like wrote out some definitions for these different classifications based on some articles from there. Let's see. Do you use Adobe Color to select your colors? Ray, I don't really. I have done that before. I have used Adobe Color to like pull in an inspirational, some kind of image that I find inspirational, and pull colors out of it to create a color palette. And then maybe go in and like tweak the colors to like suit my need. But generally, I don't use that tool very much. Honestly, I just don't think about it all that much. Do you use it a lot? If so, I'd be curious how you use it because, yeah, it hasn't been a huge part of my workflow, but I would be curious how other people use it and maybe that's like I could adopt it. Okay, I kind of want each one to have two sections because what I'm thinking, I'm just sort of brainstorming this as I go, but what I'm thinking is, oh, wow, that's a really long description. Camera is active, blah, blah, blah. Note that don't need that. Not so much. Yeah, why do you ask, Ray? I'm curious. Just because because I was talking about the colors in my Creative Cloud library, but yeah, it's a great tool. It's just I guess not a huge part of my workflow. So we're gonna do two sort of grid modules for each definition. And then over here on the far right, so I'm gonna do, I guess it's just gonna be 2 by 2. 2 horizontal modules and 2 vertical modules. And on the furthest right vertical modules, I'm going to show examples of each classification. So we'll pull in some script. And hi, Creazes. I hope I'm saying that correct. Welcome to the chat. Where are you joining us from? Thank you for being here. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Okay, so I have a question for people in the chat. Do you know why this phrase is used for showing out, or sort of, I don't know, when you are looking at different typefaces, why this phrase is most commonly used? Why it's like kind of the default? Just curious if anyone knows. I know the answer, but I'm curious if anyone else knows. I wanted to know how you selected your colors in the library. You know, I selected them just based on the fact that they're colors that I really like. I super gravitate towards kind of more primary colors, like not quite Mondrian color. Those are really saturated, but I do love that palette. And so I kind of like, I find myself going back to like Mondrian art a lot. And so those are my favorite colors. I really like red, yellow, and blue. And so these are just kind of like variations of those colors, and that feel kind of like friendly and warm, a little bit youthful and playful, but not like childlike. Sarah says it contains all the letters of the alphabet. Yep. I didn't know that until like, I don't know, a couple years into design school. It just like wasn't something that I'd ever even like thought about, like the origin of this phrase. And so when someone told me that, I was like, whoa, makes perfect sense. The only thing I remember from college, I feel that. Apurva, I feel that. There are a lot of things I don't remember from college. Okay. Quick brown fox. I'm just like I'm sort of laying this out a little quickly, and then we're going to go in and start changing up the typefaces. But I just want to get an idea for the grid. And what I think too, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this a couple times, and we'll show several different examples of each typeface. And you know, something that I'm wondering, and I'd be curious y'all's opinion on this, but part of me kind of wants to add like classification. I don't know exactly how. Definition. And example. But maybe that's redundant, because clearly, like if you're looking at this page or reading anything on it, then like you don't need this additional type. But I am one for redundancy in design if it better serves the aesthetic purpose. So if it looks nice, oh, it could even go in that little bar. Maybe, I don't know. But I don't know, that would break the system that I have going here, where these are kind of more just like ornamental anchors for the page. And if I start utilizing it as a more like functional graphic element, then it sort of defeats part of the purpose of having, doesn't defeat the purpose, but it defeats the original purpose. So I don't think I'm going to do that. But do I want them somewhere else? Like maybe... Huh. Well, I don't know. We'll see. I can leave them there for now. Just drinking my kombucha over here. Okay. We'll take these and move them over and out here for now. Oops, also want to change this, part 2. Okay, so script, monospace, handwritten, all of the definitions are correct. Let me adjust the rag here. And something that I don't want is I don't really want hyphenation. Let's see. I'm going to go to Window, Type, Paragraph Styles, or wait, is it, gosh, where is hyphenation? Where is that hyphenation setting? Oh, there we go. So if I went over to Window, Paragraph, I can uncheck this box, hyphenate, because I don't want hyphenation in there. I'm not a huge fan of hyphenation. So no more hyphenation. Okay, adjusting the rag. Ooh, this is going to be a tough one. Let's bring in, make that just a little bit tighter. Oh no, classification. Oh geez, that's going to be a really hard one to fit to. Tragic. Maybe I do need to have hyphenation on. Classic. I've actually never done this before. Classification. Created my own hyphenation. It's probably a no-no, but whatever. Okay. We're not super strict on rules here in teaching typography. Okay, this is informational. We're just having fun. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Okay, so script, bonus space, handwritten. Let's go over to Adobe Fonts and see what fonts. I really liked Beetle. So we're going to do Beetle for one of them, thanks to Annika. Thank you, Annika. I'm going to add font. And we're just going to start laying out some examples of each of these, and then we can see sort of how, take a closer look at what the differences are between different typefaces within the same classification. That's tracking a little bit too much tracking. Brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. It's like so beautiful, but like kind of impossible to read. Oh, you know what? This fully makes the case. I should not have these all in the same text box because if I hit select all and want to make really quick changes to each typeface example, then we're going to have a problem. So I'm going to create different text boxes for each of these. There we go. Okay. Yay, I like May variable too. It was good as a variable font. Is May also a script? Let's go check it out. May variable. Did I spell it wrong? Oh no, May variable. Oh, this is a really nice sans serif. It's like so beautiful and simple, but it's got like, you know, and this is what I really like about variable fonts is when it's at its, I don't know, like thinnest, when it's at its like lowest weight, it gives like kind of this elegant look and feel. It feels like something that like a nice like book might be set in. But if you drag the weight out, it gets a little bit more friendly the thicker that it gets. So it's got like a lot of personality. It is good as a display font, totally. Wow, yeah, that is beautiful. I'm going to add that to my favorites. And if we look really closely, you can see that with this script in particular, the tracking is just too loose. You can see if I zoom in here that the pieces are broken, but if I track it all in together, then they magically connect. Except for this one, which I adjusted out by itself. See, and I think this is one of the reasons that I do really love typography is because I just get so much joy out of making adjustments to these subtle little details of type. Like I could spend forever just kerning. And like I said, I could spend hours like playing with the different rags and paragraphs of text. It's just way too much fun. Okay, let's look at other scripts. I have been using a script in my past designs, but I'm blanking on what it's called. It's this one. Yep, Sweet Fancy Script. That would be a good one to use for a little bit more consistency. Sweet Fancy Script. See, this is what okay, oops, what happened? Sweet Fancy Script. This is what I was talking about earlier where, you know, these are each 30, oh wait, hold on. These are each 32 point sizes, but Sweet Fancy Script appears much smaller. And what I learned is that's because the M height is proportionally here with, or sorry, the X height is proportionally much larger compared to the cap height of the letters, whereas in this case, the X height is proportionally much smaller compared to the cap height of the letters. And so that's why it needs to be, or why it is a little bit, why they appear visually different sizes, even though they're set to the same size. I'm gonna track it out. The late brown fox, quick brown fox. I'm breaking it at fox. Jumps. Make it larger so that it appears to be the right or the same size as everything else. You know, I don't use scripts all that often in my designs, but every time I do, I'm like, wow, I love it. It's so lovely. And I think for the last script, I want to use something that is different, that like feels maybe a little unconventional. This is a very modern script. It's like sans serif script. Bello is a popular one. I don't know if there's any other, people have other, wow, this one's beautiful. It's very calligraphic. Scripts are derived from like handwritten and calligraphy. And so when you come across a script that's like super calligraphic, you can kind of like see that origin a little bit more. But obviously scripts have some of those sort of flourishes and connecting shapes. And especially when they connect letter to letter, it's easy to tell that these are based off of, you know, old style handwriting. Cuisine is, I like this one. I might do cuisine, or let's at least just like see how it looks. Add font. Let's give it 1 second to sync up. Cuisine. Okay, give it a minute. Oops. There it is. Love how fast that happens. Quick brown fox jumps. This one's an interesting one too, and maybe it's interesting because it is quite handwritten seeming. And so maybe for the purposes of these examples, it's best to not go with that one because it might blur the line, but let's leave it for now. Let's look at some mono fonts. We're going to browse all. Mono fonts are, I think, my like least used font. They're like, they can be really beautiful. They're super functional. I mean, mono fonts were created, well, so I guess like sort of what makes a font a mono font is that they all have this, every single character within that typeface has the same width. So that they can be written out on the computer and a computer can read them very clearly and the author, whoever's typing, can read them very clearly. So Courier is definitely, I don't know, probably the most ubiquitous and like popular mono font, and for that reason I would maybe include it in this poster just so people can sort of make that connection. I've already got this font family added to my computer, so drag this down and go courier. I think I like bold. Quick brown fox. And see, what's interesting is because all of these characters have the same width, it's a much, how do we say it? Like, it's a much, like, wider family. And so I'm running into trouble here where this one is, like, super narrow and they're all super connected. This one, when set to, this one up here is set to 40 points. This one down here is set to 26, and I'm still having trouble getting it to fit. So it's just really interesting to compare and contrast. Let's see. I'm curious if anyone in the chat uses script or monospaced typefaces at all. They seem to me to be like sort of the most underutilized classification of typefaces. I don't see them in designs very often, and when I do, they're certainly not. I think they're almost more ornamental than functional because they aren't the easiest to read most of the time. Oh yeah, monospace typefaces were originally produced for typewriters. So I guess when you think about like how each sort of like letter in a typewriter is stamped onto a page, they would all need to be the exact same width, just from like a functional perspective. So that makes a lot of sense. And then they are like now used in computers. Courier is a beautiful typeface. I do find myself going back to that one a lot, especially when laying out like very tiny type. It's just like a really nice, beautiful, like detailed font. And what's interesting here is, as a classification, monospaced typefaces can have serifs and they can be sans serif. So Courier has little serifs, Fira doesn't have any serifs, and there are even script monospace typefaces. So let's see if we can find one, because that would be a really cool one. I mean, like this one's wild, but a script would be a cool one to include in this example. I mean, even here, this has a nice little flourish, like mega wide here, like right there. It's crazy wide. But these, you know, just because it's a mono doesn't mean that it can't be like expressive. I'm almost saying that aloud for myself because I feel like a lot of the time in my brain, all monospace typefaces look the same, and I kind of forget about them. Let's see. We should have a scripty one. Yep. Okay, here, this one's cool. Logic monospace, and I've also already got this one downloaded to my computer as well, which is, I've clearly used this one before. But this is a really cool example of like unexpected, what do we say it was called? Logic. Logic? Oh man, like it's so lovely. Kind of like medium. Let's bring this font size down. Gonna have to bring it way the heck down. There we go. And I think, nope, that's perfect. Wow. Well, now that it's smaller, I'm gonna bring up the weight just a little bit. Cool. Wow, I'm just like, cannot stop thinking about the idea of making this into a zine. I'm like a little bit obsessed with it. That would be so cool. A Riso printed zine. I'm definitely going to do that. Okay, so we've got like the Premiere mono. We've got a script mono. Now let's try to find like a decorative mono. Not that script isn't decorative, it is pretty decorative, but let's explore. Ooh, I like this one. BD. Oh, BD. Oh man, this foundry is amazing. Gonna add this font, but I'm gonna do a real quick deep dive into this foundry. BD Kick ROM. Let me just add it over here before I lose it. BD Caramel is one of the fonts that I used in this here. It's like, I'm obsessed with it. It's beautiful. It's so like cute and friendly. That is a wild monospace typeface. I agree. BD Supper is so good too. Okay, let's look at, I just want to like do a little deep dive into, Bureau Destruct. Let's see. I don't know like the details of this foundry. Is it like, oh, Switzerland. Okay, we've got someone in the chat from Switzerland. So, which one did you say that you like? BD Supper. This is like giving mono. I think that it probably is a mono. Like, look at this Q. That is just like a hilarious looking Q. And the B and the R have like so much personality. Even this, like, that's wild. Where is BD Supper? Oh yeah, BD Supper. That one is a familiar one. That one's a really lovely typeface as well. This wild guy, it's like almost like arts and craftsy somehow. I'm gonna add that to my favorites. Also gonna add Supper. If y'all don't use favorites in Adobe fonts, you're slacking because it is super helpful. Oh my god, I love this. Yeah, Annika, they do have amazing personality. They feel so unique and so special, and so just like different from many other typefaces. Okay, handwritten. Man, we're just like flying. Time is flying by. It's like, where does the time go? It's sunny here in Portland, which is kind of rare. We're getting into sunny season, but we're not quite there yet. And I feel like when it's sunny outside, I just like the day is gone in a flash. And it really bums me out. Okay. Handwritten. This is like kind of goes without saying, but obviously the handwritten classification are all fonts that look like they were handwritten. Good Dog is like kind of cute. And I will say, I used to be super snobby about typefaces. Like, if it wasn't really modern or very classic, then I was just not a big fan of it. Like, I would just be like, oh no, I don't want to use that. But now I'm finding myself just being way more open to different typefaces. And I wonder if it's partially through doing this series, but I'm just like, I find myself like appreciating different typefaces for what they are and really just like getting excited about different typefaces. Good Dog. Like, I don't know. I think my design aesthetic is also just evolving like I was. And it's a lot to do with my design education. Like, we were taught very sort of like classical Swiss Bauhaus style design was like much more fundamentals based design education that I got rather than a conceptual or artistic expressive one. And so it, I think, kind of trained me into only like really knowing how to or being willing to work with certain color palettes, typefaces, design styles and aesthetics. And now that I have, grown as a designer, have worked in several different fields or design industries within the broader graphic design field, I'm much more willing and able and like have much more desire to explore outside of what I'm used to doing with design. I love that. It's like so lovely, and it really kind of works with this color palette too. Okay. Let's see. This one's fun. Milonguita. Scripty. This one's kind of fun. HWT Bon Air. There is a difference between selecting fonts for work and leisure. Yep, I completely agree. I mean, especially when you work for a brand as an in-house designer, obviously you're very limited to the typefaces that you can pick from. At Stanford, I have 2 that I can choose from, and sometimes a third if we have, depending on the audience. Guten Tag, Osama. Thank you for joining us. Where are you joining us from? Germany, maybe? If you're saying Guten Tag. Gloria Hallelujah. I kind of like that one too. That was weird. My window is open and I just heard what sounded like a dog bark, and I thought that it was coming from inside of my house. Okay, let's see. Let's add this one. Oh, Usama, I'm sorry, but I don't speak German and I don't know what you're saying. Gloria Hallelujah. I like this one less, but I don't hate it. Oh, it's so charming. I love this poster. It's simple, and it is a little bit flat. Both of these are kind of flat in terms of color palette, so I think I want to go back and like introduce a little bit more of the bright colors that we've got earlier on in this poster series. But if you are joining us, or if you joined us halfway through this live stream, this is a teaching typography course where we are looking at different typographic fundamentals like typeface classification, grids and structures, visual semantics, typographic anatomy. Says, how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing good. How are you? Thank you for joining us. Are you joining us from Germany? But I'm so glad you're here. I'm sorry that you're here later in the stream, but make sure that you come for our stream 2 weeks from now. Let's see. We're going to choose one more handwritten typeface before we just do like a really quick review and log off for the stream. I like these kind of like marker style typefaces. This one's fun. Blue Goblet. Okay, we're doing that one. Wow, we've got some German speakers in the chat here, which I am like super impressed by. Thank you, Ray and Sarah. Sarah, where are you joining from? I know Ray is a little bit closer to Germany than I am. Let's see. Blue Goblet. Nice. Yeah, that looks good. Hee hee. I kind of want to like do an episode just diving really deep into each of these classifications because it's just a fun, I think, design experiment to play around with typefaces that you wouldn't normally. And so maybe we'll add that into the schedule with teaching typography is, you know, like maybe it's playing around with typefaces or learning how to play with typefaces that you wouldn't normally, or like getting really experimental with typography. So I don't know. Let's see. Stay tuned. Oh, Ray, Google Translate. Thanks for putting in the work because I will not be Google Translating right now. Okay, so we have 6 different teaching typography posters now. The last 2 that we did over the last 2 weeks were about typographic classification and looking at the 6 different typographic classifications: sans serif, serif, slab serif, script, monospace, and handwritten. And for me, really just like having a super solid understanding of these different classifications sort of helps me to think about how I want to orient my typography, and what I want to say and how I want to say it, understanding the context of the history of the typefaces. So, thank you all for joining me. It has been another amazing session of teaching typography. Thanks to everyone in the chat. I'm so glad that you were all here. Make sure you tune in 2 weeks from now, Tuesday, 2 weeks from now for another teaching typography episode. I can't wait to see y'all, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.